These are always the press conferences where we're going to do our best to remember everything. It's obviously late. Everybody here is late, is being here late, so I appreciate everyone staying. I'll talk a little bit about the evening. Obviously, an exciting night for our team, exciting night for our organization. I want to make sure that I acknowledge and thank our staff for the countless hours of preparation that they've put in over the last year to get ready for this evening. That's our scouting staff, medical staff, everybody that's in charge of helping us prepare and ultimately execute on draft night. As you said before, in order to maintain and build and enhance an elite organization, it's imperative that we continue to layer young talent into our organization as we move forward. Tonight was another opportunity to do that. We're really excited to add the players that we added: Steven, Andre, Alex, and Grant. Those are guys that fit our profile a great deal. Based on the looks in the room, I should probably mention that we acquired Grant Jarrett with the 40th pick in the draft this evening for cash considerations with the Portland Trail Blazers. And I'll have Troy speak a little bit about the players here in a moment. But as I was saying, as you look around professional sports and you look at the high-performing organizations, the organizations that we want to model, it's consistent that they're able to continually bring in and layer their rosters with young developing talent, and it also creates a culture of development, and we're excited to have these young men as a part of the organization. So I'll have Troy speak a little bit about each guy, and then we'll open it up for questions.
To piggyback on what Sam said earlier, this night is just a culmination of a lot of people putting a lot of hard work into getting us organized. Thankless hours. Will led this process, Will Dawkins, and did a tremendous job, and the overseas scouts and the guys here domestically. I mean, it's just been a tremendous effort. With that being said, we're excited about the four guys. First being Steven Adams, freshman out of Pittsburgh, tremendous young man, great size, natural physicality for a young player that we're really excited about. He's got a great pair of hands, and he's a really good athlete. Comes from an athletic family, as you know by now. So we're really excited about him joining us and being able to learn from the veterans we have up front. We think that he has a tremendous upside. Next, we'll talk about Andre Robeson, who led the country in rebounding at Colorado. Tremendous young man, great nose for the ball, tremendous instincts, can defend multiple positions. We feel that his skill set will continue to enhance the wing group that we have. He's one of those players that brings energy to the floor. Next would be Alex Branish, one of the best, most talented young players in Europe. 19-year-old that's just a gifted basketball player, can do a lot of different things, can really shoot the ball, natural feel for the game for a young age. We're excited about him as a prospect. Sam will talk about more when he's in the plans, not for the immediate future, but the near future. Sam will talk about that more. And then the last one is Grant Jarrett, is freshman from Arizona. Really intrigued. He really piqued our interest during the process. This guy can really shoot the ball. Shot 40% from three as a big in college, which is rarely happens for a 6'10" kid. And we like his tools and his skill set, and we believe he's a player that can continue to grow with the program. So these 4 young guys, I mean, once again, Thunder U served, and these guys, we look forward to bringing them in and getting started with them. The coach is excited. We're excited. So we feel it was a night of continuing to layer the team with good young prospects.
Matt, questions?
Sam, did you try to get higher?
Yeah, we looked at, it's funny, this was an interesting draft in so many ways. We explored a lot of different things. Obviously, not a lot of it was what was being reported, but that's not a surprise at this time of year. But we looked at moving up. We looked at moving back. We had some different concepts to move out of the draft if different players weren't available when we selected. But at the end of the day, we knew that, if we were able to come away with Steven, at that particular pick, we felt like that was a prospect we wanted to add to the program. But to answer your question, yeah, we looked at everything, just like every team would. But we're thrilled with where we ended up.
Sam, how, if at all, did having such a talented core group affect your thoughts on the process? Did it give you some flexibility to look at some guys who are long-term options?
Well, one of the things about our team that we always have to keep in mind is that the core group is really still evolving and growing. Conceptually, although Kevin and Russell and Serge in particular have played an inordinate amount of playoff minutes together, they're still only a couple years, advanced from a lot of the players that were drafted this evening. So we look at it as a real opportunity to be able to continue to bring in young players that we feel like fit our profile on and off the floor, but also complement the core that we have in place.
Troy, athletically, it seems like there are certain types of players that you identify in terms of characteristics, length, quickness, size for position. It seemed like all 4 of these guys probably had that. Is that how you guys feel about all 4?
Yeah, pretty much. We look at those things. We value them, those attributes, and these guys lined up with that, and we're excited to, have a chance to these guys. You look at the length of all of them, it's plus. And size for the position. That's the way we've been able to build a team, and quite frankly, that's the way we're going to be able to sustain it. So we want to continue to layer the players that way.
Does Steven bring anything that maybe you don't have at the center position, in terms of just, he's a big guy, everybody's huge hands. What does he bring to you?
He's more of, he's just a younger version of what we had. He's just a physical guy. Most 19-year-olds aren't as physical naturally. He can really run. I would say he brings a nice set of legs. He's athletic, nice body. I guess you would say he's a little more athletic than our centers, but he's a young guy that's going to have to come in here and work. He has some physical tools to work with, so that was very attractive to us.
Sam, where exactly do you see Rovers? He's 6'7", 206. Like you said, a great rebounder, defensive player of the year.
We think he's a unique player. A couple things about him. He guards a lot of different positions. We feel like he has a lot of tools to work with, physically. And, the other thing that we really like about him is, he's got tremendous endurance and persistence, on the floor and activity. We think that's an attribute. Being able to to maintain a level of activity and competitiveness, and combine that with what we think are really solid, instincts on both ends of the floor. He's going to have to find his way, just like Steven and the other guys that we've drafted in the past. I think coming into the organization, you have to understand that, there's going to be a learning curve for everybody. That's been the case across the board. I think Reggie is probably a great example of that, and some of the other guys we've had in the past. But we think Andre is somebody that is going to make us better.
Will Alex stay overseas?
Yeah, the plan with him, obviously, he plays for one of the most accomplished and prestigious clubs in Europe, in Barcelona, and has earned his way onto the floor there in some pretty pivotal games at a very young age. I think that our international group has done a really good job at identifying him early in the process, and as Troy said earlier, Will did an excellent job really kind of bringing him to the group, and making sure that he was front and center in a lot of the conversations that we had leading up to the draft. So he's someone that we're gonna work with and figure out what his time frame is. But to be able to add a player that shoots the ball like that and is playing at top level competition in Europe at a young age, we like investing in that.
Troy, could you go into more detail about Grant, Jarrett? We just sort of heard about him now. So is there anything more you can tell us about him as a player?
Yeah, I mean, the young man, you talked about his length, plus length, but he has tremendous shooting ability for a big guy. He only played 19 minutes a game this year. They had a young front court, a lot of different guys, so guys were in and out, so he didn't really have a chance to showcase his ability because there's so many guys. But this was a guy we felt, obviously his best basketball was ahead of him, but it's a guy we felt could grow with our program. He has some tremendous tools, the length, shooting ability, and he has a knack for the ball. He comes up with balls, he can block a shot. He's not scared to mix it up inside. So as a young guy, we feel that this guy has some tools to work with, and long term he could be a player.
Just to follow up on that, when you get into the second round, you're looking for opportunities, and he's a guy that, again, our scouting staff did an excellent job, tracking and identifying, and we're excited to have him in the program and see if we can work with him a little bit. As Troy said, he's a younger player, but also has a skill set as a player with size that can shoot the ball and has a good feel for the game. So we're looking forward to getting to know him a little bit better.
Sam, I think there were 9 7-footers taken in the first round. A lot of them have maybe all of them have shortcomings. Did you find yourself evaluating intangibles more this year than other years?
I wouldn't necessarily say that, because one of the big parts of our process is looking at those intangibles. I don't think that we're going to value it differently one year to the next. It's going to be consistent. That's important to us. We want to try to find guys that, as I said, fit our profile of player. It doesn't mean that you have to grade out perfect in all aspects, but we want to try to hit in some specific areas that help us help the player, put them in position to be successful, and then ultimately allow them to help us win basketball games at a high level. And that's part of the development process the organization has adopted. It's a holistic thing. Our coaching staff obviously has done a great job, our medical staff, athletic performance, and I would tie our scouting staff into being able to work in an integrated fashion with those other departments. So it really is a team effort, but at the end of the day, obviously the players are the ones that make it happen.
Sam, why don't you just talk about kind of what the next couple of months looks like for these guys and,
Sure.
and what you expect from them?
Well, One thing I can say is I think that each player has a clear expectation of what's expected of them. Walking in the door in the organization, we try to make that clear. We try to get a sense from the players, as to if they understand, what putting on the jersey means, and the expectations that we have for them. So I do think that they'll come in ready to work. I do think that they'll come in understanding that being a part of the organization is also being a part of this community, and that's a very important part to playing here. But they'll play summer league, come in. We'll have a really good week leading up because we've had tremendous presence from our current roster players that have been in town working incredibly hard over the last month. It's always fun to watch the new players from the draft interact with the guys that are currently on the roster, whether it's Jeremy or Perry, who are in this situation last year. Reggie Jackson obviously is the person that was in the gym when Perry arrived, and that'll be the case for these guys as well. Alex won't be with us for summer league, but the other guys will be.
Adam's talked about this question. He said it's actually what I was hoping for, being selected by Oklahoma City. He said I kind of fell in love with the place. Did he walk in the door with a certain desire already, or was it what he found here when he got here?
It's hard for me to say. I wouldn't want to speak for him, but I think that one of the things we try to do with each person that comes to the organization, whether it's somebody we're looking at in the first round, the second round, or even a player that could potentially be a candidate for our Tulsa operation, is we want to try to give them the opportunity to evaluate us as much as we're evaluating them, and put them in a position where they can walk away understanding what it would be like to play here. And I would like to think that he had a positive experience, but most of all walked away understanding kind of what we're trying to establish. One thing that's definitely not lost on these guys is that we just finished our 5th year. So one of the things we understand is the players that are drafted over the first 5+ years as an organization, those players really are contributors to the identity of what we're trying to establish. And whether they continue here for their entire career, they're here for a short amount of time, whatever it might be, they're still guys that walk through the door as drafted players. And I believe that the draft is a big part of building your environment, your identity, and your culture. And it's even that much more important, as you're establishing an identity and for an organization.
Why did Adams talk here? The perception, anyway, under the draft is that his stock rose as he worked out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys may view it totally differently internally, but I'm just curious about what the packages he possesses that had that occur.
Well, I think it's a couple things. One thing you notice with freshmen, as Troy and I have talked about this for years, is early on they are trying to find their way in a freshman year. It's almost a given. And then as the season progresses, they start to find themselves a little bit, and hopefully by the end of the year they're playing closer to where they want to be, where they wanted to be at the start of the season. So that's not unusual. Then you come into this process and you compile some other things. Obviously, you're going to look at the medicals, and you're going to look at performance testing, and then you're going to have an opportunity to see them compete. You're going to have an opportunity to see them in your gym. But when you go back and you really study the film based on different points in the season, you can see a clear progression with his game. And then the other piece, Matt, is that it's very, very hard to find guys that can protect the basket, and as Troy was alluding to, that are physical. And this is a young player, but he's a physical player. I think he understands that he's got a long way to go, but he has some attributes that are incredibly hard to find, as John said earlier. I wasn't aware of the actual numbers of the amount of bigs that went. But there's a lot of people that often say that the draft is very much about bigs and point guards, and that's why I see a lot of them go. And we're hoping that Steven's a player that's going to continue to grow in the program.
Thanks, guys.
Sam?